everyone, and thank you for attending today's session. Today's topic is on Sage Service Operations with presenter Bob Sandlin. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. This webinar will be recorded, and we will email out a copy to everyone in a few days. I will now turn it over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Krista. Good morning, everyone. Here is a list of what we plan to cover, and we have a small group, so please feel free to ask whatever questions you have on mind, either as we're rolling or at the very end. Again, my name is Bob Sandlin. I'm the managing partner at Accordant Company, and we're going to review first just a high level of the benefits of automating in the field. I'll describe what Sage Service Operations is, and then cover the integration via a diagram of Sage Service Operations to either Sage 100 Contractor or Sage 300 Construction. And we're going to spend most of our time in this session this morning actually in the software. So we'll jump in just a minute. A little bit about some of the benefits of automation or automating the field. First and foremost, just simplifying your service operations with an easy-to-use interface that empowers your employees to do more in less time. Second, improved communications. The key here is a direct connection from Sage Service Operations to your back office accounting software so that the database that is set up, i.e. Customers, vendors, call types, call problems in service are directly connected to your Sage Service Operations in the field via a tablet or a mobile device. Better managing potential new business. This is all about generating maybe just the initial information on a quote. So some firms, when they automate the field, they're really just capturing work order production. Later, they add to that the ability for someone in the field to actually capture a quote. And at first, it doesn't necessarily have to be priced in the field. It could simply just be what it is that the client or customer needs, maybe a picture documenting that, and then some notes, from which then the field, someone back in the office, would take that and move it to actually a formal quote for the customer. Enhancing customer service. There's lots of ways we do that. Certainly on the work order itself, you'll see we're going to capture a signature. When the client signs that, the client will automatically receive a copy of that ticket with everything on it. So later, when the accounting department actually prints and produces the invoice, they're going to have that reference of the actual work order completed already in their hands to reference to the bill. Also, within Sage Service Operations, we can turn on a feature that allows your clients to create a service request on the web, which automatically creates the work order in Sage Service Management, either in Sage 100 or 300, and updates Sage Service Operations, all from a client entry up on a portal. And then last, and by no means last, because there's lots of benefits, smaller and larger than even some of these I've listed, but just reducing the amount of paperwork. You know, think about today, the way you today handle a work order in the field, and what's taken probably some long path to get back to accounting to actually generate an invoice. We're going to go through, and you'll see in Sage Service Operations the ability to make an entry at the time of service. And right as the field technician or employee in the field is doing that, you're going to see that data in the back office ready to be billed when the ticket's completed. So what is Sage Service Operations? It was introduced about a year ago. We are approaching now about 500 clients on the software. It's a cloud solution that empowers your field personnel to capture and complete data relevant to a work order. It is hosted on an Amazon server, or hosted by Amazon on their servers, which are clearly the most reliable, best performance, and secure platform for any kind of cloud solution. And again, you'll see in the integration on the next slide that it's pretty simple deployment. We actually can deploy within a day of a client initiating the service. Connects to your back office, Sage 100 or Sage 300, all real time. So it's not an import and an export. As entries are made in the field on a mobile device, you'll see them in your service programs. So this is a little diagram I created just to show where Sage Service Operations sits. So the left corner here where it says Sage 100, 300, that is your existing software on your server in your office. There's a beacon installed on your server that points your data to Sage Service Operations, which is, again, on an Amazon server. To that, you're connecting to Sage Service Operations from any kind of mobile device. Really device agnostic as well. So if your favorite is Apple, great. If you like Android devices, fine. Or it could be as a laptop. We see the most common deployment with Sage Service Operations on a tablet. And it doesn't have to be an Apple tablet, but it seems that's the favorite device today. And today also, you'll probably want some kind of OtterBox or protection around that device. So we can talk about that at another time and ways to actually deploy it and roll it out. Notice to the right, we also have integration to GPS, Fleetmatics as well, and CRM if there's an interest in expanding the functionality that's built into Sage Service Operations. So this is what we're going to cover. Let's jump into the software. First, I'll just go through an introduction of Sage Service Operations, talk about roles and privileges. Then we're going to take a peek into what a tech or a service manager could look at on a site on a mobile device and the specific details of a work order. And then I want to backtrack just for a minute or two and review some configuration options and settings in the software that will tailor the application to the way you want to do business with your field personnel. After we finish that, I actually want to kind of stop, pause, then jump into Sage Service Operations kind of in the mindset of a service person. What will they do to start a work order, to note what they've completed on a work order, and then to ultimately finish and complete it. We'll talk about how and show how to capture a signature from a customer, and then reference back to the integration to accounting. Then there's some other items that are built into Sage Service Operations that some clients take advantage of. We'll discuss those as well. So let's jump in, and let's go right into Sage Service Operations. Now, if you notice, I'm clicking on, hang on 1 second, Sage Service Operations, and now you should see the application. So what you're looking at is on the top, this would be branded with your company logo. And when I came in, I happened to have it last set at assignments for me. So think of this as an opening screen for really it could be a service manager or a tech, because based on how it's tailored, you'll see certain functions displayed or hidden. But this is everything as we first come in. And this is the band really where you work from to open up an area within Sage Service Operations. Most of your service techs will stay right within assignments, and they may also have the ability to create a quote. Notice that over to the right, there's a search button or search option. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So first, keep in mind, Sage Service Operations is role-based with privileges. So as I signed in as Bob Sandlins, I have access to everything. But signing in as a tech, I might only see assignments and maybe quotes. So if it's assignments, what you'll see down below is a list of what work orders I have today. Now, if your preference is instead of seeing by day, obviously you could roll backward or forward. What do I have tomorrow? I have 1 work order tomorrow. I have 2 today. Or your preference might be, let me just see the whole week and roll through the week this way. So most techs that we see now using it are looking at an individual day and then just working from within that day. So looking at this list for work orders for me as a field tech, Notice that I've got two work orders attached to two sites. Now these sites have hyperlinks to the detail. So if we first just open up the work order, we're going to come back into this in the kind of the day in the life of a tech. But by clicking on that work order, you're opening up the work order, and this is everything that's within the work order and what we can track. And we're going to create a work order in a minute, and then we're going to actually work through one. But just at a high level, these are the options. Assignments, notes, hours, parts, miscellaneous items. Reports will actually create the ticket. Attachments could be a photo or a document that you want to attach to a work order. If you go back, you can either hit roll back or just click on the icon or anywhere up here. If you click on Horner Laboratories, this time you're opening up the site. Now look what's here. By site, we have a recap of all of the work orders in the history of those. Again, clicking on any work order would open up the detail of that work order. Companies that maintain equipment installed at a customer site, one click would allow you to see the equipment list that's there. You could then click on a piece of equipment and notice that by doing that, you actually have a detail of what's on that equipment, but also the history of the equipment. So how many times as a service person at a site, they need to see equipment. Notice barcoding as well there. But also what's happened on that equipment before, how many times have I been in here, what have I repaired in the past. That might initiate a quote to the client or customer if they find out that the repairs on this have been a bit excessive. Maybe that's going to generate a quote from here. Let's just roll back to the site again. So again, we're on the site looking at work orders, site detail. Notice we can capture notes and forms, agreements, and attachments all to the site. So let's roll back. So that's kind of what a service person probably would have access to, work orders and sites. And then again, when you click on the site, you see all that detail. Notice to the right of this, maybe a field tech might come in and just want to key in a quick lookup on a work order. Now, I typed in 23310. That opens up that work order. So you don't have to necessarily page through prior days or future days. If somebody's referencing a work order while I'm out on the road, you can quickly look that up. Just roll back if you want to get back to where you were. Now, on an iPad, it's all touch-based, so it really moves around pretty quickly. Let's also search, instead of just a work order, let's just try a site lookup. So let's say I'm looking at a list of locations right now in work orders, but somebody just called about Fullerton. So you can do a quick search on Fullerton, and now I've opened up, let's go back, right? Type in Fullerton. And by clicking on Fullerton, now I've opened up that customer and all that site detail again that we had looked at just a minute ago. So you can jump around pretty quickly. Again, as a field person, we're going to be looking at work orders and sites and with a quick search over to the right. Now let's put our service manager's hat on. So if I'm a service manager, my orientation might be a little different. I'm not as detailed, specific to a day. Maybe we want to see what's going on just overall in the organization. So if we have 2 work orders today, we could see what's been invoiced today, last week, this week, overdue PMs. As you see, I roll down the screen, you're looking at different inquiries of data available. These are configurable by client. So this is just a quick way to get a snapshot of what's going on in our service department. Where most of the time will probably be spent by a service manager is in dispatch. Now, you can continue to use Sage 100 and Sage 300 as the source of dispatch. And as you dispatch, they automatically update Sage Service Operations. But what we're finding is some clients prefer to do everything within SSO, Sage Service Operations, connecting even in the office to the web to create work orders or to see where our resources are. So opening up the dispatch screen, now you're seeing, in this case, I've collapsed this to, or I've opened this up to a week instead of a day. So I'm seeing the days of this week. We've got planned our resources on the left, and then work orders that are stacked up. You can see I had a pretty busy day yesterday. I had 5 work orders. Today I have 2, and tomorrow I have 1. Rolling down this screen, you can see we've got a recap of work orders, and on the right is a map. So the point of seeing the map in addition to the work orders is you could actually see where the work orders are located based on GPS coordinates. And then if a new work order comes in, you can see who your closest service person is for that. One option in here that we're seeing kind of a favorite little filter is to click there, and from all of your open work orders, maybe you want to sort them in some way by call type or maybe by status. I only want to see every work order that's, I don't know, on hold. Or let's just, for fun, let's filter this by person, and I'll choose me, Bob Sandlins, apply, and notice now that it's filtering down all of those work orders just to my group, all the work orders that have been assigned to me. So again, this is a great place perhaps to manage the entire service department. It's also a place where you could, on the fly, just create a work order. So let's right now move into creating a work order, and then we'll end up in a minute after we've created the work order. We'll come back in and use that work order to actually act as a tech in the field to run through it. So how do you create a work order? There's a service site lookup. So customers on the phone, Allstate, it does a Google type search into your database. Again, from either Sage 100 or 300. I just started typing in Allstate, and it does a best fit, retrieves that. So there's the customer we just chose. If you have equipment set up, you could reference that, just have that pull down. We don't on that particular customer. Maybe the customer references a PO number that we need to bill against. You could indicate that. If you still have the pre-written tickets in the field, you could reference that if you want to. We'll pre-fill in here. This is just a default problem code and call type. Let's go ahead and leave break or tripped. We'll go ahead and leave it actually a service as well. I'll say this is urgent, and it's pulling the estimated repair time in from a default. I'll leave it today, and I'll assign it to me. And I'll just put in here, oops, assign it to me. And I'll put a description in here, no power, I don't know, on second floor. Okay, and one click, generate a work order. So we just, on the web, created a work order and assigned it to a service person. Remember this, it's 23321 for Allstate University. So if by chance we just go to assignments, and again, I'm signed on as Bob Sandlins, so now you're going to see a new work order right here for me. We're going to come in and work through that in just a minute. Let's cover a couple other options in here that most companies at a high level want to know about, and that is the configuration. So you're seeing a lot here. Let me talk about users first. So one of the first things we do in provisioning the software is we set up all the users that will have access to this application. And we'll go in and modify Bob Sandlins. In here, notice that you can turn on or off module access. So you're looking up top. Some of you on the phone or on this call, I see, have both our construction and service applications. So there might be an interest in using the job component of this as well. You can turn that on or off. So again, if it's just a service person, they'll only see, again, assignments and quotes, and they wouldn't see the ability to create field reports by job. Rolling down this a little bit, a couple other highlights here. Roles. So again, this person as a tech wouldn't see, everything that's on the screen. So we're going to turn features off that will then disable functionality. An example of that might be quotes, or the ability to generate or create a purchase order in the field. Some companies love that, and some say, no way, we're not going to do that. So you could see we can turn functionality on or off by person or, again, by role. So do you want a service person to create a work order? Or is that always done by a service manager? It's up to you. Barcodes, some companies turn it off, some turn it off or turn it on. Notice down below, do you want somebody to edit data as well that's been recorded? So again, a feature you'll decide to turn on or off based on how you want to roll it out. As noticed as well, I'm set up as a supervisor of a number of other resources. So that's pretty handy if you have a helper or if you have a kind of a super moving around and they need to have access to other resources to place on a work order. So this is a one-time setup, but allows you to very much tailor how the software works, either by user or by role. One other group of settings I just want to cover real quick, and that is here. And we'll just jump right into the service report for a minute. We're going to generate a service report that will ultimately be emailed to the client. One of the questions a lot of companies ask is, do we have the option to show prices or not? So when the service person completes the work order, prices up, or list rather, labor and parts, do you want the ticket that gets emailed and that is signed by the client to have the prices attached? So that's a yes or no right here. A little more than yes or no, but technically a yes or no. Another option of many companies is just the ability to capture a signature. Maybe that's something you'd want to make sure is turned on. Likewise, statuses of a work order. So maybe it's just open, started, and completed. Maybe you never suspend a call, and there is not an option for a tech not to answer a request. So I have that one turned off. So these are just some options. A couple other real quick comments about just some configuration settings and options. Canned responses. Think about a service person in the field that needs to document maybe the completion of a startup or any kind of task. We have the ability for you to come in and build your own canned responses. So by example, if I just click on Startup System, you can specify a response or a pre-built text block to come into the work order based on a subject. And it could be tied to a specific call type. So this just facilitates and improves the annotations of comments, let's say, with hopefully some good spelling to make it a little more complete of a description of what we've completed. So use that if you'd like. All right, so let's, so we talked a little bit about configuration options and settings. I want to move into kind of working on this day in and day out from a service person's perspective. So to do that, we're just going to jump back to assignments. And again, when I log in as a service person in the morning, I won't see probably these three options. And maybe nothing to the right, maybe just assignments, and that's what I have on my list today. So let's go open up the one that we just created and assign to me. So to do that, you just click on 23321. That opens up the work order. Based on whether you turn timestamping on or off, which I have turned on, I'm just going to click on assignments, and I'm going to click on that and say that I've started the call. So this could track at 10:24, I've started this call. You will see that actually the color of the work order change on your dispatch board in the back office service management application. It's now an active call, and you'll see that real-time change. So what happens is the service person goes in, completes the work, and then probably will want to add some kind of notes. So if we click add a note, let's just use something that, I don't know, let's say fixed breaker, second floor. And I'm just going to submit that. Now notice that there's work performed notes and internal office notes. So the customer will never see that block, whatever's keyed in. Whereas this will actually appear on the work ticket and ultimately the invoice if you choose. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. So we've added some notes, described what we did, and let's go ahead and log in some time. So I'm going to add my time, and I'm going to say it was 2 hours. So you have the ability to actually cost 2 hours, but bill maybe 2.5 hours or something different if let's say there's no travel time charge, but yet we need to account for that. The repair type is just a default I have set up. Again, you can do that or not, or have it just generic service repair. We can actually also have blocks of text behind that would automatically appear on an invoice. I'm going to go ahead and submit just the 2 hours. By the way, because I'm a supervisor, we could go ahead and record time for a helper right then and there too, if needed. Let's go ahead and add a part. So if you have inventory set up in adding a part, let's just do a quick, same kind of Google search here. I'm doing a search on wire. And notice again, that search is finding any part in your database that has wire anywhere in it. So I'm just going to grab anything. Maybe I should have chosen a fuse, right, based on what the issue was. So I'll just go ahead and say 5 of those for now. And it's coming out of main stock. Again, we have stocking locations. We can pull it right out of a truck if we want. I'm just going to pull it out of main stock and save it. So we added one part. We logged 2 hours. We put a note of what we've done. Let's say that we're now done with this work order. Change the status to complete. 1024, so they'll update once I finish update. So we are done, and the next thing that would happen is the field person would create the service report. So notice what's here. Again, the branding of your organization would be displayed. This is actually configurable, so we can go in and turn features on or off based on what you'd want displayed to your customer. And notice we've got a open to call at 1019. We started that at 1024, and I'm not sure why that's at 1024, but that should have been 1027. I had one part, or I added 5 of that one part. It pulled the price out of our database based on rate tables attached to the customer. And this customer did have a trip charge automatically set. So if you wanted to remove that right then and here, you could. Or somebody in the accounting area could do that later on. And again, remember that feature in the software, turning prices on or off? This is enabled in that configuration setting. So perhaps the customer that sees this document might not see pricing. What we find is residential service organizations always want the pricing. Commercial firms don't want pricing. We verify, edit, and create invoices in the back office on the commercial side typically. Now I entered 2 hours of labor. My rate popped up for that charge of $162.50 for this customer. So I'm going to mark this as, yep, it's complete. The customer can do that. They can then sign that, accept the terms of this agreement, and by doing so, if you have the auto email configuration set up, your customer has just received a copy of this work order, perhaps just with what was completed, the parts that were used, and the labor expended. So one email has been sent. So as a service person, I'd roll back to my assignments and start my next call. So that one's now completed. I just wanted to show a couple other features in the software, and that's pretty much what every firm does right away. And remember, everything you're doing here is moving into the back office. So again, whether pricing is displayed or not is really your option. I want to touch on a couple other things real quick before we break, and that is that on any work order, let's go into this new work order, 23315, my next one up to bat. You can attach documents. Now, attachments could be as simple as a picture, a sketch, or some other email attachment. So if you are on an iPad or a smartphone, when you click browse, it actually opens up your camera. In this case, I'm on a laptop, so it's just opening up my Windows desktop. I'll just choose a document there and add a picture to show problem. So just know, and you can put further annotations on that reference piece of equipment if you want, you even categorize it. When you click Add Attachment, it's adding that picture to that work order. So think about that on a quote. That would be very handy. Or on the site, So you might have a customer site with equipment and maybe specific instructions on maintaining or servicing that equipment on the equipment record on the site. So attachments are everywhere. We talked about parts, by the way, a couple other items in here. Parts that are referencing an item file. Not everybody can do that right away or has the discipline to have an inventory in place. That might be a goal, but perhaps up front you might just want to log in materials used through a simple window like this. So in this case, we can log in materials or parts used on a work order, update the work order without necessarily having to impact an inventory system. So know that that's out there. The other option that's kind of fun if you want to put more accountability into your service personnel, on a work order, you could, if you wanted, turn on the purchasing feature and allow someone to create a purchase order specific to a work order. Now, this might be a service manager's role, or you could allow the service person to do that. And to create a purchase order on the fly, on a mobile device, it's pretty simple. Just roll down this purchase order request. It fills out this screen already for you because it knows what PO or work order you're on, so the defaults are pre-filling. You're going to quickly choose a vendor. And again, that search feature again. So we have one vendor on file, Barth Electric, that we're going to use. Maybe we're going to buy some stuff, something technical here. And I'm going to click Create PO. Now, there was an option to put further notes on there if you wanted to. And then in creating that PO, you can pick miscellaneous items. So I don't have to necessarily, again, pull from a parts list. But if you do choose parts, that same lookup again is looking at your parts item list and allowing you to pick right from that. And how many are we buying? Let's say 3. It'll default with pricing and cost. Put some notes on there if you want. Save. So it's really easy to add 3 or 4 items on a PO, or just lump sum it if you want. The advantage of doing this is that when we roll back to the work order, again, remember the work order we're on is 23315. So let's just roll back for a minute. You can click the back space too there. So if we go back to that work order, 23315, this one. I'm just going to jump right to creating that service report on that work order to show you what happened by creating that PO. So we're going to jump to reports. I'm skipping some other logging of time and what we did. I'm just going to click Create Service Report. Look what's here. That was the wire that was on that PO. Now, there would be rate tables that would mark that up. So if you do deploy the discipline of capturing POs with detail, those parts that are bought from a supply house will automatically be put onto the ticket to ensure that they get billed. So POs are an option. You can see I've already used 34 minutes. We can talk a lot about what the features are in the software. I'd like to just cover some high-level comments and then open it up for any questions. In addition to work orders, we can create quotes. A quote can ultimately convert to a work order. A lot of companies that actually enable quotes on the mobile devices, they're not allowing their field personnel on the commercial side to actually price them up, but rather just capture what's happening or what we need to quote, and then somebody in the office actually prices up the quote and converts it to a work order if accepted. Jobs. If you're using our construction module as well, you can come into, these are jobs in your job cost system. You can come in and create a daily field report on a job. So we're starting the integration of building functionality out on mobile devices specific to job cost as part of Sage Service Operations. So if we were to just create real quick, I'll just show you what that looks like, generate a new field report. And if I create one, you'll see that we can capture labor, subcontractors, quantities, weather, events and visitors, and material. So the normal things that you would capture on a daily field report would be captured, displayed, and then documented within the database. So one other thing I just want to touch on, in addition to work orders, quotes, daily field reports, We also have the option to turn on a portal for your client to log in. They would only see their sites when they log on with an ID and a password. When they see a site, they could look at work order history, they could look at the equipment that perhaps is installed, and most importantly, they could create a service request. That service request that's logged in by a customer will automatically create a new service request in typically a unassigned column. So somewhere in here we'd have unassigned, so the work orders would start dropping into this column here, from which you could then, just by example, let's say drag it from here up to a resource, and it's automatically then on their device. So nice drag and drop functionality on there for work orders coming in, either entered by you or even by a customer. So let me recap. Sage Service Operations. The goal here is to increase the efficiency of your service operations in the field by tracking a number of critical items: assignments, work orders, POs, and remember on sites, the client equipment, the history of the equipment, if you want that exposed to your techs. Obviously attaching notes and attachments or pictures, ultimately feeding all of this information to your back office for billing automatically of those work orders. One other big feature here is the ability, as we're recording time on these mobile devices on the work orders, that's creating a time file that will be reviewed, perhaps edited, and then posted into your Sage payroll 100 or 300 for processing and printing of payroll checks. So let me pause with that. Krista, let's turn, if there are any questions from anyone, maybe I can answer those today, or we could get back to you. Do we have any open questions?
None so far. If you do have a question, type it into the questions box, and we'll be happy to answer.
Well, that's either a good thing that we've answered everybody's question or showed you a lot of functionality. I hope we have. Please, I recognize a number of you on the call. If you'd like to see or have a more personal demonstration set up for you, let us know. We'd love to do it. There's a lot of energy at Sage being put into Sage Service Operations, and we're pretty excited about it. And the companies that have implemented it are finding it to be a very productive tool. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Krista, no further questions? Nothing in?
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And please reach out if we can help and maybe further demonstrate this software to you or anyone else in your organization.